I took in my nephew after my sister died, then found out he was secretly helping my ex-wife sue me for custody of our kids. He called me Uncle Nate the first night he moved in. His voice cracked when he said it, like the word didn't quite know where to land. I remember I was standing at the stove, burning garlic for the second time, trying to feed 3 kids who hadn't smiled in days. My daughter Riley was holed up in her room pretending the world didn't exist. My son Caleb wouldn't look me in the eye. And now, Danny, my dead sister's 17-year-old boy, was sitting at the kitchen table in my hoodie, staring down at a bowl of untouched mac and cheese. He mumbled, "Thanks for taking me in, Uncle Nate." And I swear something broke open in my chest. "Your family," I said. "That's what we do." That was 3 months ago, back when I still believed that sentence. Before lawyers showed up at my door. Before I found the text messages. Before I realized I was raising a snake in my house. My sister Mara died in late May. Car accident. She was driving home from a night shift, fell asleep at the wheel. She and I had been close once. Childhood close. Shared a bunk bed close. But then came the distance. Her bad marriage. My worst divorce. We drifted, like siblings tend to when life starts setting fires in different corners. Danny had no one. His dad walked out when he was 9. And after Mara died, CPS reached out. I didn't even hesitate. I signed every form. Cleared out the guest room. Set up his dresser with the same nervous care I once did for my own newborn son. He was quiet, polite, weirdly neat for a teenager, and broken in a way I recognized, like grief had shaved off all the sharp edges. He'd sit for hours in the backyard just staring at the tree line, earbuds in, hoodie up, face unreadable. Riley tried to warm up to him. She'd leave her sketch pads in the living room, like bait. Caleb mostly ignored him. The house felt like a pressure cooker. I kept telling myself we just needed time. Then one night, late July, Danny knocked on my office door. "Hey," he said, voice low. "You got a sec?" I was buried in tax paperwork, half a bottle of whiskey deep, but I nodded. He sat across from me, hands clasped like he was about to confess to a crime. "I was thinking," he said, "would it be okay if I got a part-time job? Just to keep busy?" My guard dropped. I smiled. "You don't have to work, man. You're a kid. Focus on school." "I know," he said quickly. I need something that's mine, you know? I'll still help around here. Just a few shifts." I caved. That weekend, he started bussing tables at a diner off Route 6. Even offered to chip in for groceries. And something about that, a teenager volunteering to buy milk, made me think I was doing okay. I didn't know that job would be the first thread to unravel everything. A month later, Riley came to me with red-rimmed eyes. "Dad," she whispered, "you need to see this." She handed me her phone. There was a screenshot open, a group chat. My ex-wife, Leah, had messaged Danny. At first, it looked innocent. Just check-ins. Compliments. Then came the poison. "Leah, I'm just so glad someone in that house sees what's really happening. Leah, you don't deserve the way he treats you. Leah, the court will listen if it comes from you." I stared at the screen, not breathing. Then came a video. A clip, secretly recorded, of me yelling. It was from 2 weeks ago. I had found Caleb with weed in his backpack and lost it. My voice in the clip was sharp, desperate, angry. I looked at Riley. "Where did you get this?" "I saw Danny texting her," she said. "He left his laptop open." I didn't mean to snoop, I swear. But then I saw everything. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat in the living room, staring at the family photos I used to believe in. In the morning, I confronted him. "You're working with Leah?" Danny flinched. He was barefoot in the hallway, hair a mess, clutching a cereal bowl. "It's not what you think." "Really?" "Because what I think is you're helping the woman who tried to cut our kids out of my life." He looked down. "She said you were dangerous. That Caleb and Riley were scared of you." My laugh was ugly. "So your solution was to spy on me? To send her videos?" She said she could help me get emancipated. I didn't want to be a burden anymore. I didn't want to be here. That broke something in me I didn't know was still whole. I stared at this boy, this blood, and all I could see was betrayal. "Pack your things," I said. He didn't argue, didn't cry, just nodded and walked away. I didn't tell Caleb, didn't tell Riley. Just watched from the window as Danny climbed into a lift that Leah probably paid for. But this wasn't over. Because 3 days later, I got served. Full custody motion. Leah wanted the kids. And now she had a witness. Danny. And I swear to God, I was going to war. The papers hit me like a sucker punch I didn't see coming. I remember standing at the front door in yesterday's shirt, hair wet from the shower, coffee in one hand. And then this guy in a blazer hands me the envelope like it's a pizza delivery. No emotion. No eye contact. Nathaniel Clark? Yeah. You've been served. That phrase, it always sounded like a sitcom punchline. Until it happened to me. I opened the envelope right there on the porch, coffee forgotten on the railing. Legal words jumped off the page like gunshots. Motion for emergency custody. Immediate removal of children. Witness affidavit attached. And there it was. Page 3. Danny's statement. It started with the words, "I fear for Caleb and Riley's emotional safety." My knees buckled. I sat on the porch step like the wind had knocked me over. I couldn't even process it. My dead sister's kid. The one I took in when nobody else stepped up. The boy I housed, clothed, fed. Now painting me as some unstable monster in a suit of fatherhood. The worst part? He knew exactly what to say. He wrote about my temper. About the yelling. The tension in the house. How I had unrealistic expectations and emotional outbursts that left the kids walking on eggshells. He didn't lie outright. No, that would have been too obvious. He twisted the truth. Turned discipline into danger. Turned parenting into paranoia. He knew how to make it sound just damning enough without triggering suspicion. He knew because he'd seen it. Up close. And that made it all the more vicious. Riley found me an hour later still sitting out there, papers in my lap. "You okay?" "Nope." She sat beside me without saying another word. Just leaned her head on my shoulder. I closed my eyes. My daughter's weight against me was the only thing holding me together. "They're not taking you," I said finally. "Not without a fight." She nodded. "What do we do?" "We lawyer up." I didn't have a lot of money. My last court battle with Leah bled me dry. But I still had one ace, Steve Glasser, a divorce attorney I'd played softball with years ago. Guy had a temper and a beer gut, but he knew family law like it was scripture. I called him that afternoon. Told him everything. "Jesus," he muttered. "This kid, Danny, he's not even her blood. She's using him to establish a pattern of abuse. Clever. Nasty. But we've seen worse. Can you help me? I'll file a response first thing tomorrow. We'll motion to discredit the affidavit. But Nate, you need to get ahead of this." "How?" "You need to show you're stable. That your kids are thriving. That you're not the man she's describing." I nodded, though every bone in my body screamed otherwise. I didn't feel stable. I felt like I was one bad morning away from shattering. The next day, Caleb skipped school. First time in months. He said he felt sick. But I knew. He didn't want to face the whispers. Leah had a big mouth and a rich daddy. The kind of combo that spreads rumors like wildfire. At dinner, I tried to act normal. Made pasta. Told dumb jokes. Riley smiled once. Caleb didn't. Then, as we were clearing plates, Caleb said, "Is it true? Danny's helping Mom?" I froze. "Where did you hear that?" "Liam's brother saw Danny at your old house. Said he's been staying there." Riley dropped a fork. "Yes," I said quietly. "It's true." Caleb didn't say anything for a while. Just scrubbed the plate in silence. Then he muttered, "I hope he chokes on her fake lasagna." That made Riley laugh. The first real laugh in weeks. I clung to that sound like it was oxygen. Because we were going to need it. This wasn't just custody. It was a war of stories. And mine, the truth, was barely holding together. But I wasn't backing down. Not now. Not ever. The hearing was scheduled for Friday morning. 3 days from the day I got served. 3 days to build a case. 3 days to defend myself from a kid I'd fed, sheltered, and protected. A kid I called my own. Steve called that night. He had that voice, the one he used when he knew the odds weren't in our favor but didn't want to panic me. "We're not going to win in 3 days," he said. "But we can stall." I filed an emergency response. The judge will hear it before anything else. If we can show bias or manipulation, we buy time. Maybe even flip this thing. And if we don't, then we prepare for hell. I got off the phone and just sat in the dark. Riley and Caleb were asleep. I could hear Caleb snoring faintly through the wall. I used to hate that sound. Now, it was the only thing keeping me from breaking. I opened my laptop and started digging. I needed proof. Not just that Leah was lying, but that she was pulling Danny's strings. And then I remembered something. Back in June, a month after Danny moved in, he got a new phone. Said his old one was cracked. I offered to buy him a replacement, but he insisted he'd saved up for it. He went with a newer model, something fancy. I thought it was strange at the time, but grief does weird things to people. I let it go. Now it felt like a thread. I pulled up the old receipts from the Wi-Fi router. I had admin access. I looked for unknown devices. And there it was. A phone registered under the name DJK_17, connected nearly every night for weeks. Then suddenly, 2 weeks ago, it vanished. The exact week he left. I cross-referenced the IP logs and saw something else. Between midnight and 3 a.m., that phone had been backing up files to an iCloud account, hundreds of megabytes. Night after night. Photos, videos. I stared at the data until my eyes hurt. There was no way to access the backups directly, not without his login. But then I remembered Riley's words. He left his laptop open, and Riley, being Riley, had taken screenshots. I knocked on her door gently. "Hey, kiddo, you still have those messages?" She nodded, opened her tablet, and showed me a folder labeled Danny plus Leah. Inside were screenshots of the entire thread. But one message stopped me cold. "Leah, did you back up everything to the cloud? I need those videos for court." "Danny, done. I put them all in the shared folder. Don't let him see them." My stomach dropped. She wasn't just manipulating him. She was coaching him, directing him. And that, legally, changed everything. I sent everything to Steve. Within 20 minutes, he called back. "This is gold. I can argue coercion. Influence of a minor. It won't clear you completely, but it'll muddy her waters. Judges hate messy custody fights. What about the kids? We can file for in-home interviews. Let the court hear from Riley and Caleb directly. If they back you, it's huge." I thanked him, hung up, and went to bed for the first time in days without dread crawling up my spine. Until I woke up the next morning to the sound of banging on the door. Not a knock. A bang. Riley was already at the top of the stairs, eyes wide. Caleb came stumbling out of his room. I opened the door and froze. 2 cops. Uniformed. Grim. "Mr. Clark?" "Yeah. We have a warrant to inspect the residence." "On what grounds?" "Allegations of unsafe conditions. We've received a report claiming there are weapons unsecured in the home." My heart slammed against my ribs. "That's a lie. Then you have nothing to worry about." They pushed past me. Caleb looked at me, pale. "Dad, what's going on?" I didn't answer, because I already knew. Leah was escalating, and she wasn't playing fair. The cops were polite, but thorough. They combed through every drawer, every closet, every inch of the house. They asked to see my gun safe. I took them to the basement, unlocked it, showed them everything was registered, locked, and legal. "And the key is stored where?" "On me. Always." They nodded, made notes. Riley stood in the hallway the entire time, arms crossed tight across her chest, glaring. Caleb retreated to the backyard, refusing to speak to anyone. It took 2 hours. By the end of it, one officer, an older guy with crow's feet, looked almost embarrassed. "We'll file a report," he said. "But from what I can tell, there's no immediate threat here." I nodded. I didn't thank him. As soon as they left, I collapsed into the kitchen chair, head in my hands. Riley sat down across from me. "She really called the cops on us." "She did. Because of Danny. Because of all of it. She wants to paint me as unhinged. Violent. And now she has a paper trail, cops at the house, a custody motion, a kid's testimony. So what do we do now?" I looked at her. "Now we push back harder." Steve called the next morning with news. "We got a preliminary hearing. Judge Ellis. Friday at 9. It's not the full case, just the emergency petition. But Lee'll be there. And so will Danny." I paced the living room, phone pressed to my ear. "What do I need to bring?" "Yourself. Your kids. Those screenshots Riley found. And every ounce of calm you've got. Ellis is sharp. Zero tolerance for theatrics. Play it clean." I hung up and told the kids. Riley nodded like she'd been preparing her testimony in her head for weeks. Caleb didn't speak. "I don't want to see her," he said. "Or him." "I know," I said gently. "But I need you. Just to sit there. You don't have to speak unless they ask." He stared at the floor, jaw tight, then nodded once. Friday came like a storm. We wore our best. Riley in a black dress she hadn't worn since her middle school winter concert. Caleb in khakis and a dress shirt he grumbled about. I put on the only suit I owned, the one I got married in. We walked into the courthouse as a unit. Leah was already there. Designer coat. Expensive heels. Hair perfectly curled. She smiled when she saw us, not warmly. The kind of smile that said checkmate. And beside her, sitting tall and straight in a button-down shirt I recognized, because I bought it, was Danny. He didn't look at us. Riley muttered, "Coward." The hearing room was small, intimate. No jury, no crowd. Just us, Leah, her lawyer, and the judge. Steve made our case, presented the messages, the screenshots, spoke about manipulation, about coercion, about how Danny's testimony wasn't just flawed, it was manufactured. Leah's lawyer countered with footage. The same video of me yelling. Out of context. Out of proportion. Danny's written affidavit. Then the judge asked if the children would like to speak. Riley stood up before I could blink. She walked to the front. Voice steady. Eyes dry. "My dad's not perfect," she said. "He yells sometimes. He gets overwhelmed. But he loves us. He shows up. Every day. And Danny, he betrayed us." The judge asked a few follow-ups. Riley answered every one. Caleb stayed silent, but when asked if he felt safe at home, he nodded. It wasn't a knockout, but it was enough. Judge Ellis denied the emergency motion, said further investigation was needed, that the children would remain in my custody pending review. I didn't cry, not until we got back to the car. And even then, it was Riley's hand on my back that cracked me. Not victory, just relief. For now, I thought surviving the hearing meant we could finally breathe, but it was only the eye of the storm. Over the next 2 weeks, Leah launched a charm offensive. Social media posts about fighting for her kids, subtle barbs about the danger of silence, and the strength to walk away. Her followers ate it up. Hearts, likes, sympathy comments pouring in. I deleted every app from my phone. I didn't want to see her turn pain into performance. What hurt more was Danny. He posted too. A photo of him and Leah at a coffee shop. Caption, "Thankful for second chances and people who truly listen." It got over 800 likes. I didn't show it to Riley. She would have broken something. Steve called with updates every other day. "We're in limbo," he said. "Judge wants more interviews. We'll likely get a court-appointed psychologist. You need to be above reproach until then. No yelling. No panic." "That'll be easy," I muttered, watching Riley and Caleb argue over laundry. "I'm serious, Nate. They're digging. You so much as raise your voice at a grocery clerk, Leah will use it." I nodded, bit my tongue, tried to be a robot, but the pressure was eating me alive. One night, a week after the hearing, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer. "Hello." Silence. Then, "Uncle Nate." "Danny." I didn't say anything. He went on. "I know you probably hate me. I don't blame you. But I didn't know she'd use it like this." "You didn't know she'd weaponize your lies?" He sighed. "They weren't all lies. You did yell. A lot." I clenched my jaw. "You're damn right I did. You were smoking in the garage. Caleb brought home weed. Riley nearly failed her finals. I was holding a house together with duct tape and willpower. You got 3 meals a day, a warm bed, and you filmed me like I was a zoo exhibit." "I didn't know what else to do," he whispered. I was scared. That hit harder than I expected. I took a breath. "Why are you calling me?" "Because she told me to delete everything. The backups, the videos, even the ones that made her look bad. And I didn't. I still have them." Silence stretched. "Why?" "Because I think I made a mistake. And I don't know how to fix it." I sat down slowly. "Send them. All of them." He hesitated. "If I do, she'll cut me off. She already used you, Danny. And she'll do it again. So decide what kind of man you want to be." The line went dead. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I checked my inbox. One link, a shared drive, dozens of files, and one folder labeled, Leah, Private. I clicked it open, and everything changed. The videos were worse than I imagined. Not because they showed me in some horrific light. No. The ones Danny saved painted the opposite picture. Clips of family dinners, me helping Riley with homework, Caleb asleep on the couch with my hoodie draped over him. Even one of me fixing the broken water heater, swearing under my breath as Riley filmed and laughed. But then came her videos. Recordings Danny must have made in secret. Leah pacing the kitchen, ranting on speakerphone to someone about needing full custody before summer. One of her coaching Danny on what to say, line by line. Her voice like syrup over steel. "Leah, if he yells, just flinch. Doesn't even have to be real. Just enough to make them think. Leah, say he grabs your wrist sometimes. They'll fill in the blanks. Leah, you're doing this for the kids. For their safety. For mine." I watched in horror. Another clip, her laughing about the CPS visit. saying the cops were easy to manipulate, bragging about the judge's past rulings. And then one last video. Danny, holding the phone under his chin, whispering, "I don't think I can do this anymore. I don't think she's who I thought she was." I sent everything to Steve. His reply came 5 minutes later. "Steve, we just won the war." The next court date was scheduled for a full custody review. Leah's team expected to bury me in affidavits and edited footage. Instead, we walked in with nuclear ammunition. Steve played the audio. The judge's face changed halfway through the first recording. By the end, his knuckles were white around the edge of the bench. He dismissed Leah's emergency petition outright. The court denied Leah's request to restrict my parenting time to supervised visits. Ordered an investigation into possible custodial interference. It was a bloodbath, and she knew it. Outside the courtroom, she cornered me. "You think you've won, but those kids still know who you really are." I didn't flinch. "Yeah, they do. That's why they're coming home with me." She stared at me for a long moment, like she was seeing something she hadn't before. Then she turned and walked away, heels clicking like gunshots down the marble hall. Back at home, Caleb was the first to speak. "So, she's done?" "She's done," I said. Riley asked the next question. "What about Danny?" I didn't have an answer. He hadn't reached out again. Until 2 days later. A knock at the door. Not a cop. Not a lawyer. Danny, standing there in a hoodie, backpack slung low, eyes hollow. "I'm sorry," he said. I didn't speak. "I have nowhere to go." I stared at him. At the kid who broke my house in half. And then I opened the door wider. "Come in." Because this war wasn't about winning anymore. It was about healing, if that was still possible. Forgiveness didn't come easy. I let him in. But I didn't trust him. Not yet. Maybe not ever. He slept on the pull-out in the den. Riley wouldn't speak to him. Caleb pretended he wasn't there. The house was quieter than it had ever been. Not tense, just hollow. I gave him rules. Boundaries. No phone without permission. No alone time with the kids. Therapy sessions twice a week. Non-negotiable. He agreed to all of it. Didn't argue. Didn't flinch. One night, I caught him in the backyard, sitting where Mara used to sit when she called me. Same hoodie. Same posture. Just a kid pretending to be okay. I stood in the doorway. "You thinking about her?" He nodded slowly. "Every day." "Me too." He glanced at me, eyes rimmed with something between shame and grief. "Do you hate me?" I didn't answer right away. "I hate what you did. But hating you, I think that'd break something in me I can't afford to lose." He swallowed, looked away. I sat beside him. We didn't talk for the rest of the night. Riley cracked first. Not with words, with art. I found a sketchbook on the kitchen table. It wasn't hers. Not technically. It was Danny's. But the drawing on the open page was unmistakably Riley's hand. Her shading. Her style. It was a portrait of Mara. Sleeping. Peaceful. Below it, Danny had scribbled, "I miss your mom too." The next morning, they ate breakfast at the same time. No conversation. But no glaring, either. It was a start. Caleb took longer. He'd been burned before. Abandonment hits him harder. He internalizes it, builds walls, and digs moats. But 2 weeks after Danny moved back in, I caught them watching a movie together. No fighting. Just silence and shared popcorn. Progress, in our house, looked like that. In therapy, Danny said something that stuck with me. I thought doing what she asked would get me a new family. But all I did was break the only one I had. He looked at me then, voice shaking. "I don't deserve another shot. But I'm gonna try like hell to earn it anyway." I didn't say anything. I just nodded. Because healing isn't loud. It doesn't come with apologies and fireworks. It comes in quiet mornings, in shared space, in routines slowly rebuilt. It comes in staying. And for the first time in a long time, he stayed. The day the court closed our case, it didn't feel like a victory. No confetti. No gavel slam. Just a dry ruling stamped and signed. Full custody granted to me. Leah's visitation limited to supervised weekends pending psychological review. Steve patted my shoulder outside the courthouse. "You did it." I nodded, but it didn't feel like I did anything except survive. The damage Leah caused wouldn't vanish with a ruling. The things Danny said couldn't be unsaid. The strain on Caleb and Riley wasn't just going to dissolve overnight. But at least now, the bleeding had stopped. We could start stitching. That weekend, we planted a tree. Not a memorial, exactly. But it sat in the back corner of the yard, in the spot where Mara used to smoke when she called me after night shifts. Danny dug most of the hole. Riley picked the tree, a weeping cherry. Caleb watered it. I stood back and watched. Something about the whole thing felt earned. Not fixed, not redeemed, but rebuilt, inch by inch. Danny came to me later that night, held out an envelope. "What's this?" "A letter," he said. "To Mom." I figured, maybe if I can't make things right with her, I can at least write her the truth. I opened it after he went to bed. It was raw, full of guilt, grief, hope, and buried in the last paragraph was the line that finally cracked me. Uncle Nate didn't just take me in. He gave me a chance to become someone I can live with, someone you'd be proud of. I put the letter in a box I kept of Mara's things, right beside the photo of her holding Danny as a baby. Months passed. Riley started drawing again. Caleb joined track. Danny finished his GED. We fought. We stumbled. But we stayed together. One night at dinner, Riley said, "We should go somewhere. Just us. Like a reset." "Where would we go?" I asked. Caleb said, "Anywhere without Wi-Fi." Danny smiled. "Someplace quiet." We all looked at each other and nodded. And for the first time in what felt like forever, we weren't a broken family. We were a healing one. And that was enough.